All right, welcome back to another Sledgehammer Tie-Dyes episode. Today I'm going to be doing a mandala. It's going to be a bit of an experiment though, because I'm going to be using kite string instead of sinew, which is what you would typically use. I just want to kind of see how it works and what it does. So we got our shirt here. It has been soaked in soda ash and spun out. It is not flipped inside out because this is going to be a liquid dye. I have already marked the center points, so we just need to go ahead and get this folded with the front half folded in half. And we're going to take the sleeves and push them through. Okay, so this is the starting point of where we need our mandala to be. Okay, so we're going to need a protractor and our washable marker. So first off, we want to figure out where the center point of the mandala is going to be. I'm going to put it about right here, kind of just below the armpits, kind of mid-shirt. And just going to be sure to line up the edge of the shirt with the 0 markings on either side. Take our pen, and it's very important that you mark the center point, because everything else will fall apart if you don't know where you're aiming for. So going around the protractor, we're going to put a mark every 20 degrees. Okay. So now using our yardstick, you can use a ruler if you want. I'm just going to connect all these lines back to the center point. Yeah, that one line is off. Hold up. All right, so whenever this happens with me, where I draw a line, it's slightly off, and I draw another one, I just kind of put an X through the one that I don't want. And that second line I drew was actually worse, so I'm gonna ignore it. I'll put an X through that, ignore that line. And this one I wanted to use that one. All right, so those are our lines. And these are going to be the folds of the mandala. So now what we're gonna do is we're just gonna pinch up on these lines that we drew and meet them together. It's kind of like an accordion fold, just at an angle. And then the last one you can just kind of fold up. So that's kind of about what it looks like at this point. Now you just want to go in and make sure you neaten everything up. You want all your top creases to be at an even angle, or level rather. And be sure you flip it over, look at the back side. See, I got some wonky stuff going on here. And the tip is always the problem area. Will be every time, at least for me. Because I can get everything else nice and neat. And every time without fail, that tip is just horrendous. But at least I know that right there, that is pretty good. I say that. More cleaning to be done. All right, and once you got it at this point, To hold it together, I use a clamp. And I just use these big office binder clamps. There, that will hold that. Then we can work on cleaning up the front end of this. Now you want to get it cleaned up to about like an inch or so, because I'm not going to be going all the way down with this one at least. Okay, that's pretty good. So I'm going to give that a clamp. All right, so time to start tying this guy. So I like to kind of have it on top where I can see where the collar is, because you don't want to run the mandala all the way up to the collar. You want to come down a little few inches or so. So I'm going to actually start it about right here. So we need our kite string. Like I said, normally you would use sinew on this, but I'm experimenting. And the more time you spend just making sure everything is nice, even and neat, the better it's going to turn out. Can be a bit of a headache at times, but it's worth it. Pull it tight. So now I am starting at the top. When I used to do mandalas, I used to try to start from the center and then work my way up. And let me tell you, that is a pain in the butt. This is so much easier to start at the top. So when doing the mandala, you got your first tie here, and by tying this straight across, it's going to make it more of a circle. If you wanted to have it with like spiked edges, kind of like the cartoon sun or whatever, you would do it at an angle, either this way or that way, it doesn't matter. But this one I want to be a circle, so I'm going to start off like that, and then you just come down kind of at an angle. And then what I do at this point to sort of anchor this spot in is I'll get it to where I want it, and then I'll pull it straight down. And what that does for us is it gives us a little indentation for the string to kind of hold on to, something to grab. And you come back and just give it a couple wraps around. And then we're just going to pull that tight. And break the string. Great. Well, that was not supposed to happen. Tying this like I would with sinew. This is not sinew, this is kite string. That was my friendly reminder. Okay, so now that I got a new line on. So that first one was definitely tight enough, because it broke it. All right, so now what we're gonna do, after we've done that first angle, is we're gonna come back under and form a new one like that. So again, I'm just gonna kind of pull it, make a little indentation. And be careful not to break it. All right, now that we're getting down to the end here, we can kind of remove that clip, but just be careful with it, be gentle. What you could do is clip the very end of it. And then I'm gonna do one final one, but it's just gonna be straight across. So this center bit, I'm gonna end up kind of splitting out and doing a little bit of something with. And this bit I'm not going like super tight with. I'm just kind of holding it down. All right, and so that is pretty much the tie for the mandala. Now what you could do, I'm not gonna do it this time, but what I do with my sinew is then I go back through and I split each section into two once they get wide enough. So I probably would keep these, it was one, and then maybe like right here, I'd start splitting that into two. But for this time, I'm just gonna leave it like this. Now with the rest of the shirt, you could, since you already have it split in half, go and find your back. Oh, knock the camera. You could find the back and do something along the spine right here. For me, I'm just gonna kind of do a bit of a scrunch. So I'm gonna keep my sleeves together, but I'm gonna form them down to where the whole sleeve is right here, but it's compacted. And I'm just gonna scrunch everything else up. Now, had I gone back up and split these into two sections, then I would be right where I needed to be to get that all tied up. But instead, I'm gonna do another string. And there we have it all tied up. Okay, so I've got some dyes that I have from a previous project left over. I've got some dragon fruit, lime pop, and Kelly green. I got some golden yellow, some grape, Grecian sea, and robin's egg, burgundy, fire red, and some blue abyss. So my plan is I'm gonna start off with the burgundy for this first section here. But before I go to do this, it actually has been about 24 hours since I tied this up. It was getting a little late and I didn't want to get into this part of it, so I just went to bed. But it is actually a good idea to let these dry out, just for better penetration of the dye. Usually I would probably go more like 2 to 3 days, but I think this would be good enough for what we got going. But what I do recommend doing whenever you go to dye it is get yourself a spray bottle with some soda ash water and just spritz the outside of it. And what that does is that gets that outer layer moist to where you can put the dye on it, and the dye will actually go right in rather than rolling off the top and going places you don't want it. So I'm going to start off with some burgundy just as a borderline, and then I'm going to go with Kelly green, and then dragon fruit is going to be in between my greens. Then I'm going to have lime pop. Back to the oh, that's burgundy, crap. Good thing I only put a little bit, because the dragon fruit will be able to disperse that out. All right, back to our Kelly green. And I'm gonna put that burgundy way far away from me so I don't grab it again. All right, so I'm kind of at a halfway point now in the mandala. So I'm gonna get my lemon yellow just as like a central border, I guess you could say. I'm sorry if my voice is a little scratchy. I've not been feeling too well. I've been coughing a lot, so please bear with me. All right, now I'm gonna be moving over to my blues and purple. So I'm gonna start off with Grecian Sea. Or am I? No, I'm gonna go with the grape. So that way the grape and the dragon fruit can kind of complement each other. And then it's gonna be Grecian Sea. And back to grape. And then I'm gonna go with the robin's egg in the middle. Back to grape. And then Grecian Sea again. So we can flip this over and do the same thing again. All right, and for the tip up here, I was going to go with the robin's egg on this side, which I believe is the top, but it doesn't really matter if it's the top or the bottom. It'll work out fine either way. And then the grape. And I'm going over both edges because I do want them to kind of blend together. Okay, so now I'm just going to come back over the other side just to make sure that I get good saturation and kind of go back in on these areas. A good indication of whether or not you have good saturation is if you notice right along the edges in here. Here, I'll zoom in. You see how we get like these little white fluffy bits? That's kind of how you can tell that it's not quite fully saturated right there. So if I come back over with that, there you go. And also if you put dye on it and it just kind of seeps in immediately, it's not good enough yet. So like right here, so it just kind of disappeared. So you know it's not quite fully saturated. Not until you see it kind of like a sponge, kind of resisting soaking in, then you know it's good. So like that's pretty good. Okay, so for this section right here, I'm going to be mirroring that burgundy on the other side, at least for just the outer edge. But then I'm going to come back with the yellow. Kind of get those to blend a little bit. And then after that, I'm going to go back to the dragon fruit. And this center stripe here, that's kind of where our sleeves were. So that's going to let you know where the shoulders are as well. So I'm going to put some fire red that goes across that. So hopefully we'll get a darker red shoulder. It'll be in the approximate area at least. And back to our dragon fruit. And just like I did with the burgundy, I'm going to use some yellow to kind of transition into that fire, or the dragon fruit rather. And then also to emphasize the difference between the fire red and the dragon fruit, I'm going to go with a little bit of burgundy across that. Not a whole lot, just a bit. Then I'm going to come back with that fire red, push that in. All right, let's flip this guy over. Okay. Ran out of that. But that's fine. It's okay if we got some white bits in the center of this. As long as this is mostly as saturated as I want, I'm good. The only thing that I'm going to do last is come over the top of all of this with the blue abyss. Now, it might seem a little strange, but we're just going to be putting a light coat. In fact, I'm not even going to be using the squeeze bottle. What I'm going to be doing is emptying it, or at least some of it, into that, and I'm going to be sponging it on using this guy. And there we have it. So now let's let it sit and come back and see what it looks like. All right, so it's been about 24 hours. So let's rinse this guy out. All right, so this is what we got so far. Looks pretty good. Let's throw it in the wash. All right, so here we have it. Looks pretty interesting. Did have a little bit of saturation issues towards the center of it. That yellow I should have put a little bit more into. And we did have a little bit of bleed through from the kite string, which I expected a lot more of it, to be honest. So I'm very happy with how this came out. Yeah, so the back side looks like this. Definitely got some of the white in with the dragon fruit, but like I said, I expected that because I kind of ran out before I could fully saturate it. Everything else looks pretty good though. I kind of missed the shoulder a little bit. I was hoping this would be more towards the top to where it would show a little more on the front side. But on the front, the yellow fading into the dragon fruit really worked pretty well. So overall, I am very pleased with it. But I don't think I will be doing another kite string one, just because in order to get enough saturation for this to fill in, this is gonna bleed. But for comparison, I have a different shirt that I made a while back. This is using sinew. So you can see how you can really get some different saturation all the way through with the sinew. Although this shirt is not perfect by any means. I don't claim to be a mandala expert. But mine did not come out as good as this. But yeah, so if you liked it, give it a thumbs up. I know this was a really long one, but if you made it this far, you're the real hero here. All right, but for now, Sledgehammer Tie-Dyes, out.